I've worked with so many men who have finally shifted into the men that God has made them to be. But it wasn't easy. I'm going to show you why they showed up weak, and I'm going to give you 2 things that will help you to show up with strength and confidence. First off, let's talk about how men show up weak. They show up weak in different ways. Sometimes they're avoiders. They don't step into vulnerable situations at work, with their spouse, with their partner. They don't want to be vulnerable, so they just avoid. Another thing that men will do is they overcompensate. They buy a bunch of stuff to try to feel good about themselves, or try to work out enough to be good enough. That may look strong, but they're still showing up with some weakness. Other ways that men show up weak is they're numbers. They numb their life out with video games, pornography, drugs, TV, whatever they can do to avoid life and just get through it. They do that and they numb their life out and they get caught up in addiction. That's another way to show up weak. Another thing that men do is they show up as posers. They're chameleons. They're not authentic. They try to become what they think everybody else wants them to be, rather than just being honest with who they are and authentic in their relationships. Quick story of some pansy men that I've worked with. So I treat sex addiction, I treat men all the time. And I'm thinking of a few guys that I worked with. One guy in particular, he would get very, very upset if his wife got upset. And he would be very, very happy if she was happy. His okayness and his well-being was completely dependent on her. And what that did is it ruined safety and trust in the relationship. He couldn't show up for her when she was really struggling. He couldn't be there for her because he needed her for his okayness. That's an example of showing up weak. I'm working with another guy who cannot be honest with his wife. He smiles and he acts like everything's okay all the time, when in his heart it's not okay. And when I talk to her, she knows that something's off. She knows that he's hiding things from her, but he can't own it with her and he can't be honest with her. I had a friend who's a complier and who just goes along with everything that his wife says and never has an opinion of his own. And one day he came to me and he said, it's so interesting because my wife and I got in a big fight, and what she said to me was, why don't you ever disagree with me? Why don't we ever have conflict? You never have an opinion. I want you to have an opinion. Why would she say that? I mean, you think that she'd like a guy who would give her everything that she wants. Not true. She wants a guy with strength, a guy with honesty, an authentic man. So these are examples of men showing up weak. But let's talk about why. Why are they showing up so weak in their relationships and in their lives? There's several different reasons. The biggest reason is we as men oftentimes lose an understanding of who we really are. We're born into this world. We have certain life experiences, and those experiences tell us that we're not enough. We're not okay. We don't have what it takes. We're broken. One of the biggest things that we experience is father wounds. Our fathers do wound us. And I'm not saying this to blame our fathers, but our fathers are human. They're imperfect. And they will neglect us emotionally. Some fathers are abusive. And some fathers just aren't there for their sons. And when things like that happen, you don't think, my dad's broken. You think, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. And so now I have to put on a show or avoid because I'm not lovable. That's at the root of men showing up weak. Also, you can experience mother wounds as well. Over-controlling mothers, mothers who hover, mothers who don't show up and aren't there for you and give you love. What that does, whether it's coming from your father or from your mother, is it makes you realize that love is contingent, that you have to earn it. You have to put on a show. You have to become a poser in order to be okay. And the truth is as a man, you are okay. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to earn that love. You just don't know that And that's why you're showing up weak. As men, we forget that we are sons of God, that you are built for war. You're built as a warrior. You're built for adventure. You're built as a lover who can create love in your life. That's who you are at your core, in your soul. But these life experiences have told you something different, and you felt shut down and broken. I'm going to give you 2 helpful things to create a shift from showing up as a weak man to becoming a strong man. But before I do, remember to subscribe to my channel. One of the issues, if you have a lot of father wounds, is that you might view God the same way that you view your own father. You might believe that God loves you the same. And so you might not want to go connect to God to understand who you really are. You're going to have to look at that. Because if you want to understand your strength, then you need to connect to God. Initiate yourself with God. Spend time with God. Know God. So that you can feel the strength of who you really are. I have good news and I have bad news for you. The good news is that you can totally shift your perception of yourself and really have confidence and power and understand who you are. Here's the bad news, is you can't just learn it. You can't just watch this YouTube video and then all of a sudden it gets better. You're going to have to experience it. You're going to have to feel it. So the second thing is that you have to step into some courage. You have to act against the fear that says that you're not enough. You have to act against the shame that says that you're not lovable. And when you practice that courage, you're going to realize that all these lies, all this shame, were just that, lies. And you're going to know that you're somebody different. If you're in a relationship with a man who's showing up weak, I want to warn you about something. You might actually feed it. You might actually get used to him showing up weak. It's nice if he's a complier. It's nice if he's an avoider. And you'll know how to kind of work that situation in the relationship. But deep, deep down, you're going to feel an emptiness. There's going to be a disconnection in your relationship. And deep, deep down, you're going to want him to step up. Want him to be that man that God made him to be. So I challenge you to support him to practice courage, to support him to be an honest person, an authentic person, and a man of God in your relationship. Here's an example. Let's say you're going out on a date. So let's say you say, where do you want to go for dinner? And he says, I don't care, why don't you choose? I want you to stop and check your gut. Is he really being honest with you? Does he really not care? And if he doesn't, great, choose where to go to dinner. But if you really feel like he does care, but he just can't say it, throw it back to him and say, no, I want you to be honest with me. I'm willing to go wherever you want to go, even if I don't like it, because I want you to be honest with me. That's an example of letting him step into who he really is, rather than just being a complier. As a partner of a man who may be showing up weak, sex can oftentimes bring out the shame and bring out the weakness. And here's the thing. Sometimes you'll engage sexually because you're worried about his reaction or his response, that he can't handle rejection. I challenge you to not take care of him in that way, to allow him to work through his own rejection. So what I'm saying to you is learn how to be honest with him about what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And hand it back over to him to work through those feelings of rejection and shame. Because he needs to learn that even if you do reject him sexually, that he is okay. If you're showing up weak, I've talked a lot about shame. I've talked a lot about trauma, deep-seated things, messages, and identities that you have about yourself. The truth is these won't go away overnight. Connect to God and practice courage. But one way that you can practice courage is by processing the trauma, by healing that trauma, by seeking help, and doing the work in order to overcome that trauma and learn that that shame is a lie. So I challenge you to do some therapy, to do some of your own work, read some books that help you flush out an understanding of who you really are. If this video was helpful in understanding yourself and understanding how you may be showing up weak, then you're gonna really like my other video, which is called How to Get Women to Want You. So click right here and watch that one too.